It's on the sheet. We're doing it.
You're listening to the Theology of Games podcast, your source for gaming news, reviews, and interviews with the top voices in the industry. Find us online at theologyofgames.com. And now, here are your hosts, Scott Firestone and Jeremiah Isley.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Theology of Games podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, AJ Skiffstad, and...
You go.
Scott Firestone.
Hey, Scott. I'm Jeremiah Isley. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Jeremiah. We got a lot of good stuff coming your way today. We're going to talk about our Patreon campaign. We're going to talk about Fire and Ice, some of the usuals, and what's on the table. So we got a lot of good stuff coming up. But right now, we're just going to turn it over to Jeremiah. He's going to talk a little bit about our Patreon campaign.
Patreon campaign?
Yes.
Did you say Patreon campaign?
Woo!
We've got a Patreon campaign going, and I think, if you ask me, I think it's pretty awesome. So if you go to theologyofgames.com/Patreon, there's a link there that will take you directly to our Patreon page. And there you can find out all the cool ways you can be a part of what we do. So you can just get in on the game for like $1 a month, or you can go up to like crazy things like $12 a month, and we'll do live reads on the show for you and things like that. But right in that sweet spot, like that $3 a month and $5 a month, you can actually get some really, really cool rewards. We got a lot of really awesome promo items from some of our friends that are publishers in the gaming industry. They said, yeah, we'd love to help you out. And they hooked us up, and there are more on the way, actually. So stay tuned for all of that. But we've got stuff from like Starling Games, from Cosmos, from Gamelin Games, just lots of really cool stuff. I'm super excited about it. We've got a few people on board already and hoping to, make this thing a reality. So that's really, really cool. Also, I wanted to point your attention to an episode of That's How I Roll that just released this week. Well, I guess it's probably last week by the time this goes out. Whatever. Time is irrelevant.
But that's an existential statement.
Right. I have this really great time travel joke, but you guys didn't like it.
We're going to be talking about the Muppets later. We can do some really bad jokes.
So anyway, so I had a really cool interview with Tiffany Kyrez, who is like the media marketing PR person for this little company called Deepwater Games that literally formed at Gen Con last year. They've got like 8 games that they've brought over from Asia. One of them is Hanamakoji, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on. So if you want to hear that, you can go check out theologyofgames.com/roll, and you'll see that it's episode, I want to say 86. So check that out. It's pretty cool stuff. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Firestone, who's got some scandalous news, I hear.
Controversy.
Oh, no.
That's not scandalous, but just in the last week or two, we've had some kind of weird Kickstarter controversies that I thought we could talk about. So the first one was CMON. Now, we like CMON. We like their games. But they came out with this game called Cthulhu Death May Die. And it's designed by, I think Eric Lang is one of the people. And then there's who's the other person? Is it Rob Daviau?
I'm going to look it up. Keep talking.
You should do that. So they launched this thing, and as everything involving them, it has these cool minis and this just epic-looking game. $100 gets you the base game, but then they had these early bird tracks where you could get this giant, and it's like seriously bigger than a baby, this giant miniature, which is, I mean, it's not a miniature, it's a statue at this point.
Right. And it was Rob Daviau, Eric Lang and Rob Daviau.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it's pronounced Relia. I don't know. One of the Cthulhu monsters. this huge statue of it, and it's an expansion.
You just angered nerds across the country.
I'm sure
across
I did.
the world.
Get over it.
Excuse me, it's technically called I don't know. Anyway, go carry on.
So these miniatures sold out incredibly quickly, and they had incrementally higher tiers where you could get, okay, you can pay $10 more and get one, and then those be gone, and then $15 more and those are gone, and then they were just gone, and everyone is screaming their heads off because it's like, I decided to sleep in this morning, and now I can't get a big piece, literally, of this game. and we're
sounds like a big piece of crap. It sounds like a big piece of crap to me, but
well, I'll be honest. It looks like it looks completely unnecessary to play the game. It's very impressive, but it's also like, wow, am I willing to pay an extra $50, $100 for this thing? So one of the reasons they came out with an update that basically said, here's the deal. In order to make this huge miniature, the mold that they created for it wears out after every so many hundred of them. So they, in order to keep the cost down, because they have to replace the mold after every few hundred of these, they only made it a limited thing. Well, the backlash and the demand for it was so great that they decided to change things. They have a process now where they can create more of them or whatever. But now, to get in on it, it's $250.
Whoa, no.
Yes. And because this process takes so long, like they're now projecting this game to be almost 2 years before it hits people's doorsteps, or at least that part of it. So it's kind of a crazy situation. I cannot imagine a world where I would pay $250 for a game that's basically miniatures.
No, you might as well just carve out a prayer closet in your basement and set up your little idol there and worship it every night before you go to sleep.
Wow. Yeah, so
I don't know. Far be it from me to judge people for being crazy fans of whatever, because obviously Cthulhu has a pretty rabid following. There's countless games and things that are themed around it. Is it really that big of a thing? Like, can you not play the game without it? No, you can still play the game. So is the game worth it without it? One, or are you literally just buying it so you can have like this giant, like you said, statue at this point? I don't know. But I just loaded up the Kickstarter page, and it's at like almost $2 million. So apparently they're doing something right with this thing.
Yes.
It's not my cup of tea. Like Cthulhu, I could take it or leave it. And I have friends that would drop dead if they heard me say that, but it's not my thing. I don't know.
What if it was like a giant miniatures Lord of the Rings game, and like it was the Balrog expansion, and the Balrog was 2 feet tall that you put on your board? Would I pay
$200 for it?
Yeah, that's something you really like, right?
Yeah, but there's no way I'm paying $200 just to get a special mini.
Yeah, see,
too. Yeah, would I like to have the game? Yeah, if the game is great, like if the gameplay is going to be fun and thematic, and it's going to remind me of the great times that I've had reading the books and watching the movies, yes. But do I need a $200 miniature for that? No.
The completionist in me understands that. I would be bummed if I woke up to a campaign I was excited for and now I can't get a part of it.
Right.
I get that backlash, but yeah, I can't even imagine.
I don't know. That's what makes it limited edition, though. That's what makes it special, is that it's not... as a collector, I'd be like, well, I got one of them and some people didn't. And I guarantee you in like 5 years, you'll be able to buy it on eBay for like $20.
You think so?
I'm just going to call that. Yeah.
How look at the game industry. This game might be awesome, but honestly, how good is this game going to be that it's not going to be $20 at a later date. I mean, games are just like, they're popping them out left and right, and some are really good and some are just okay.
Last year's Gen Con, we saw over 500 titles released. So
wow.
I don't know. Anyway, that's kind of more power to them. And CMON, like we said, they make great games. I really, last year my game of the year was a game from CMON. So they're figured out something that they're doing right, that people enjoy, and more power to them. Hopefully they can weather the storm. Apparently, $2 million later they have.
That's just unbelievable.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And what a gig for Eric Lang. Like, he works for CMON now. He is their designer.
Yeah,
and
right.
That's I just can't imagine that. What a great gig.
Yeah, super awesome.
So the other controversy is a game that you can't even find on Kickstarter anymore because it was taken down by Kickstarter. This is a game called Overturn Rising Sands. And it was kind of a unique theme. It was kind of this Arabian fantasy theme. So people were backing it. I can't remember how much it had made. Something like $300,000. And but there still wasn't a lot of information on it out there, and the publishers were kind of playing their cards close to their vest on this, which is insane to me. As an aside, like Kickstarter games, we're not going to give you much. We're not going to tell you much. Doesn't this sound cool? Yes, $300,000 later, here we go. But
wow.
So people were saying, hey, we need to see something. We want to see the rules. We want to see anything that shows us, like, you guys you have a product here. So they released the rule book, and it is almost verbatim the Massive Darkness rule book.
Oh, I did hear about this.
So they came out with an explanation on the Kickstarter saying, hey, sorry, we weren't as prepared as we thought we were going to be. We had somebody throw together something. None of us speak English very well. So, I mean, all these excuses about this. And so, trust us, this is not going to be the final product. We have a final product. But, so people were jumping ships in droves. I think it lost like $100,000 in the last couple of days when this came out. But still, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars they were going to make on this. And there was so much question and so much concern about this that it was either yesterday or today, Kickstarter stopped everything on it. It had funded, and they were getting ready to collect the money on it, and Kickstarter shut it down and said, no, this is too sketchy. We don't want to be a part of this. We don't want it affiliated with our website. Done.
Wow.
And they yanked it.
Well, I mean, good for them. There's been rare occasions. There's a few games out there that have funded, and then whoever it was that was running that campaign just skipped town and like completely disappeared off the grid.
Right.
So does that happen? Yes. Does that happen all the time? No, because I mean, I can count on less than one hand how many times it's happened. But, if there is some sort of shady copyright infringement kind of thing going on, I'm sure it was easier it's easier for Kickstarter to deal with an angry creator than it is for them to deal with thousands of angry backers,
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could argue like, hey, it's, they got the money, they earned it, they convinced people to back them. Whatever the content is up to them, but you don't want to be caught in the middle of litigations and things like that. So I guess I'm okay with that, but I don't. That's just bizarre to me. Like, why would you? How do you? Well, and first of all, how do you get like $300,000 and not show a rule book or give any description on gameplay or anything? Like,
it's Kickstarter.
Why do you back a game though?
Right. I mean, like, who's going, yep, I'll get behind that. I just,
well, one of the things that's come up now is, so one of the video review sites called Board Game Brawl.
Yeah.
He has mostly stopped doing regular reviews, and all he does now are paid previews of games. And he did one for this one, and he says right at the beginning, this is a paid preview, but of course when they put it on the site, it's a review.
Right.
And so it seems like an endorsement, and people are asking him, like, what did you see? What were you given to preview? And I have not heard. There was a thread on the Geek on his on Board Game Brawl's forum on Board Game Geek.
Okay.
And somebody just point blank said, will you please answer us? What were you given? What did you know? And I subscribed to it, but nothing. He has not answered.
No response, huh?
Wow.
Interesting. Lots of skullduggery and
just some interesting things that come out of Kickstarter. I mean, like you said, most of the time everything works smoothly and great. Well, every once in a while, there's kind of a big, especially. I mean, board games are the biggest thing on Kickstarter. They make more money than movies, than video games, than anything else. And so these kind of things are going to happen.
It's time for the worst named segment of the show.
24 episodes running.
What's on the table? What are we playing? We don't even have like an actual name for it. We're just going to talk about the games that we've been playing, what's been on our table recently, and what has been exciting about those, or maybe not so exciting, or whatever. But it's just a time for us to catch up, chat a little bit about games we've been playing, and we'll go from there. All right, so first up, Firestone, why don't you fire us to get it? I don't know what I'm saying.
You lost that one before you started
it was gone before I even tried.
That's funny. I've only got a few I'm going to talk about. I have a weekly game group, so I certainly have a lot that have been on the table, but just a few that have kind of risen to the top. That was not a dig at anyone who doesn't have a weekly game group that is on this phone call, but
I don't know who you're talking about.
I don't either. So one of them is Newsfjord, and this is a Uwe Rosenberg game, and it takes place up in the fjords, fishing for fish in the ice, and it's kind of an interesting, it's this subdued, understated artwork that I feel like fits the theme. Like, if you're up there, it's not going to be crazy bright and vibrant. It's like, hey, we're up here in the freezing cold, we're fishing all the time, and the artwork kind of matches that. But anyway, it is a really superb game that scales all the way down to 2 players and plays really well, where you're trying to build a tableau, get some elders from the town to help you. You have to give some of the elders some of your catch. You're trying to increase the size of your fishing fleet, and add different buildings to your tableau, I guess. And it's just a really clever little game. It uses a lot of the thing. I mean, if you played it, you'd kind of go, oh, I bet this is the same guy that did Agricola and Caverna. And it's absolutely true. So it's not something that you have to have that is groundbreaking or anything, but it's totally worth it. And my son, my 10-year-old, has been asking to play this constantly. So it's a big thumbs up from us. Newsfjord's fun.
Now, is that a Mayfair release?
It is a Mayfair release. Let me double check here. I can just look over my shoulder.
I saw it at Origins. It was a pretty heavy box.
It's a big. I mean, it's the same size as Agricola and those kind of things. Not quite as big as Caverna, but it's a big, good sized box. I'm not sure if they have expansions planned or anything like that, but it seems like the kind of thing that could easily be expanded. And there's a lot of replayability in it because there are 3 different decks that you play with, and you play with a subset of each deck, of one of the decks. So each game is going to be different as different buildings come out, and so there's tons of replayability with it just out of the box.
Very
and
cool.
They may have more things planned.
Very cool.
Cool. What else?
So Altiplano, which is by the same designer who did Orleans, Rainer Stockhausen. And this is a game that takes place in South America, and there are a lot of similarities that you'll see. It's the same kind of thing where you have tokens that you're drawing out of a bag and placing out into different areas, to accomplish tasks. But this has a movement aspect to it. You have to move to these different quote-unquote islands in the village in order to take some of the actions. And so there's a lot of planning that goes into it. If I do this here, the next turn I'll be able to do that, but I won't be able to do this. And so there's a lot of planning that goes on with it. One of the things I like about it, and the thing that may make me like it actually better than Orleans, a game I love, is that in Orleans, everything always goes back in the bag, so it's possible for you to never pull out what you want, unless you leave some pieces on the board intentionally just to be able to do that. It's possible just through the luck of the draw that you can't get what you need. In Altiplano, everything goes into a discard box, and only once your bag is done, then all of those things go back in your bag. So you're guaranteed to pull everything that you get throughout the game. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my rebuttal to your statement about Orleans. I don't know. So I agree. Yes,
that was it. I don't know.
There are times that you can definitely have a hard time getting something out of your bag that you want or need, but that's why the town hall's there. You can call your bag down by getting rid of stuff that you have too much of or whatever, kind of keeping those numbers down. And that's why you go up on the night track so that you can draw more, so that you can get to what you need. And like you said, yes, sometimes you got to leave stuff out there so that you get through your bag more. I think it's just a strategy mechanism. Now, would it be cool to have that discard box? Because then it's like a true deck builder where you discard until you go through your deck and then you shuffle everything up and draw again. But I think there are mechanisms in Orleans that allow you to get through your bag as well. That's just my opinion.
Well, I think. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
I think the whole idea too. I mean, I'm kind of in your camp, Jeremiah, and the fact that you can the different areas that you go on your player board, you can load those up with things. You don't have to complete them in a turn, and you can kind of ramp them up for a future turn to make sure that they don't go back in your bag, as well as just leave them down in your queue. So, I mean, I haven't played Altiplano, so I don't know, but I do feel like you can get through your bag pretty easily in Orleans, but heck, if there's an easier way to do it, that might be cool too.
Well, I agree with you guys that there are mechanisms in the game to allow you to do that, but I guess my point is that on Altiplano, I don't have to play with those mechanisms because the game itself takes care of those, and that's just a part of Orleans. I get that, but it's not my favorite part of Orleans. It's not like, oh, I really want to have to draw this, so now I'm going to make sure I go here so I can drop a couple guys out there to get some points there so that I can eventually draw what I want. That isn't as fun to me as not having to worry about that in Altiplano and getting to spend my brain power on the other mechanisms in the game that I do enjoy.
Yeah,
I'll give you that. I still love Orleans.
I do too. We're going to talk about it tonight. It's a great game. I love that game. I'm not taking anything away from it.
Yeah.
Especially with this new, spoiler alert, expansion that we're going to talk about tonight. I think it makes a great game even better. So, finally, last thing. One of the Kennerspiel des Jahres games is called Ganz Schön Clever, and it is a roll and write game that is not yet in the States, but you can make your own copy quite easily. And I would only say to do that because you can't get it in the States yet. Once it is, you should buy a copy. But I like roll and write games, Rolling America, and what are some of the other ones? Quicks and things like that. I like those games. This game is superb. It's just the absolute best roll and write I've ever played. 6 dice, a score sheet, and it's super clever.
Nice.
And fun. Play this game.
Cool. I love Quicks. I don't know that I have many other roll and write games in my collection, but I do enjoy them, and I'm actually interested in checking out Welcome To, which is sort of like a roll and write, but with cards. So they call it a flip and fill. Which I guess has like an infinite player count because you just need more sheets, but they've created an app that you can play along with it too. It sounds pretty cool. But yeah, hopefully that'll be available in the States soon, so we can all check it out, since, we don't have access to some things that some people do.
You have access to this.
Okay. All right. So I've played a lot of games recently, which has been fun, despite my ridiculous busy schedule this summer. I played, let me look at my list, and I'm going to just kind of focus on a couple of these real quick. Played the latest from Tuesday Night Games, That's Not Lemonade, which I love the catchphrase is it's a yellow treat that's short and sweet. AJ, you've played this with me. It's just a little bluffing game about drinking lemonade, and sometimes you get something that isn't lemonade, and then you're out of the round, and you just try to win 3 rounds. Basically, it's really fun, really easy. I just taught you the game, literally. I also played the new Dungeon Raiders, which is, I guess it's just like a second edition, and they just did such a great job with this. This is Devere Games, and anything that about the first version of it where, the setup wasn't, it was really cumbersome, and some of the rules were a little, there's player elimination and things like that. They totally cleaned all of that up. This game plays so great now. It's so much fun. I really, I put this on our Instagram. I think it was on our Instagram account, and I said, listen, this is going to be on my top 10 list for this year for sure, because it's just great. So I played that a few times. We're going to talk about Orleans a little bit later on, so I won't mention that right now. But I've played Hanamakoji, which is from Deepwater Games, and it's a great little 2-player game. I think I've got this one coming up later too, so I'll leave that for then. And of course, Star Realms Frontiers, which I need to look up the release date, because I think it's coming out soon, or it might have just released to retail stores. But Rob Doherty, he's the CEO of White Wizard Games and one of the co-designers of Star Realms. He came by our booth at Origins, which was awesome, and he left me like a pile of games, and this was one of them. It was a pre-production copy, and it is very, very cool. AJ and I got a chance to play one of the missions a few nights ago. And so the cool thing about this is you could play these solo and co-op missions. That there's these big 8 boss cards that have all these different conditions on how the game would play and how you have to beat it and how the boss reacts to what you do and how it tries to destroy you, which we barely made it through this thing. It was really, really tough. But you could also, it's like a standalone game. So it comes with 4 starter decks, all your point counters, everything that you need to play the game out of the box. You can just play like standard Star Realms out of the box, but it has 80 new trade row cards. So all of the ships, all the cards that you buy to put in your deck, the outposts and bases and all that, are brand new. So there's no repeats, nothing. And they've really done a good job of making them feel the same. Like all the factions are like, oh, the green ones are like super heavy attacks. They just blow everybody out of the water. The red ones help you scrap cards out of your hand. Things like that. Like they all feel the same, but they're all completely different. It's really, really awesome.
Yeah, totally fun. It's if you played Hero Realms, it's just like Hero Realms was when out of the box. Yeah. Versus where the original Star Realms was just it was a little looked like a little deck box, and you could play 2 players out of it, and the scoring and hit point mechanism was really, really It was really kind of crummy, but
so
that
many
was
cards.
that was so they could pack it into a small box, and so it's still kind of not fun playing it the way they have it now, with like there's like a little chart that you go down as you're taking hit points. But same as Hero Realms if you played it, but you just replace it with gems, and it's just a fun game. I still like I'm still partial to attacking one another versus playing solo or co-op, but
yeah,
really good release by.
Yeah, and I think that's
White Wizard.
I think that's what I liked about it was, the solo and co-op mode thing is cool, but if you want to play more Star Realms, you've got like a ton new cards to just work with instead of playing the same cards that you've been playing with for a while. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I've been playing a couple newer games. I experienced one at Origins called Dragon Castle by Simon. And this game's really cool. It's got these like they're like these ceramic tiles, kind of like the ones you'd see in Azul. And you set up the middle of the game board as like the old computer game Mahjong. If you guys either of you play that,
yeah,
okay, where you're trying to eliminate tiles by matching the color of them, and they're all these ancient Chinese symbols and numbers and colors. And what you want to do is you want to deplete the pile. Well, that's exactly what you're looking at it's a destroyed dragon castle is what they call it. And you've got your own grid that you're going to try and put these tiles on. You got to take 2 off the top every time, and they've got to be on the outer edge where you can grab them. And then if you place them into your grid, you place them in certain ways that are going to gain you victory points. And there's really, really cool ways in which you can earn victory points. And you can put out different cards that determine how you can get more victory points. There's a base way to get victory points, and then there's the bonus cards. And there's a lot going on in this game. It packs a big punch, but it's real easy to play. It's real accessible. And it's just fun taking those tiles off and seeing that center temple kind of disappear and kind of building your own temple. So it's really got this kind of pleasing or fulfilling thing that you're doing as you're building up your temple and gaining victory points. So absolutely love that game. And another one that I literally have it on the table right now, so it can fit into this poorly titled segment. And it's called Indian Summer. It's another one by Uwe Rosenberg. And it's kind of this abstract thing that he likes doing these Tetris-y puzzle games. He's done Patchwork, he's done Cottage Garden, and this one in particular is the second game in his line that he's releasing for Stronghold Games. In Indian Summer, you're walking in this kind of forest path, and as you're walking along, you're collecting these leaves and trying to fill in different grids. And it's this gorgeous game that has all these different yellow leaves and orange leaves and red leaves in these Tetris-y shapes. And they've got holes cut out of them because if you place them over certain places on your board where there's a hole matches up with a berry or an acorn or a mushroom or something, you gain these treasure tiles, which are the berry, the mushroom, or the acorn, and you can turn them in to do other actions. It is really, really cool. I've not played it yet, but I'm very, very excited to actually play this. So that one's pretty cool. That was a 2017 release. And then my dogs are adding to the conversation as well. I apologize for that. And I don't know when that will end, so I'm just going to keep going. And another game that is a re-release, and I think we've all experienced this now. Scott, you played it years ago. You had mentioned in a Board Games Daily podcast that it got you into gaming. This is called High Society by Reiner Knizia, and it was originally released. Yeah. I think it was originally a Eagle Griffin Games, but now it's Osprey Games, who, if you've looked at any of their games, they just do a beautiful job with anything they do. And the artwork is fantastic. It's got a new look to it. And it's basically a bidding game. You're bidding on members of high society, trying to collect them in front of you, and the person with the most points at the end of the game wins. But you can't spend all your money, because if you have the lowest amount of money, you're automatically eliminated from the game. There's some other cards that you're bidding not to take, and it's just a really, really fun game. Super simple to play, but super thinky, because you're seeing what people are playing, remembering what they have in their hand, remembering what cards are left in the deck. Absolutely adore this game. It's great. And I know you guys, I think you guys like it too, correct?
Yeah, it's elegant is one way to put it. It's just so simple, I mean, this is Reiner Knizia, right? You haven't heard about him in a long time. He used to be so big in this hobby, and now he just comes out with something every once in a while. But he comes out with these games that have the simplest mechanisms, but the most interesting decisions in them. And his classic scoring things, too. I mean, Tigris and Euphrates was the first one to do the whole, your score is whatever you're lowest in. And that was like, what?
Yeah.
So you had to think through all those different things. It's the same thing here. You can be really great, but if you have the least amount of money, you're done. I love that.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I played it for the first time with you, AJ, and man, it's just elegant is sometimes an overused term in describing game design, but not in this case. It really is just sleek, and it has just enough. Like it's just enough to make you think and make you plan and make you plan ahead and pay attention and try to bluff and fake. Like, it's all there, but the game doesn't get in the way of that. So that's what I really enjoy about it.
Yeah. Really good stuff. I'm going to mention one more, and only because it just hit Kickstarter again, and that's the one that I mention all the time, is Thunderstone Quest. It's not leaving for a while, guys. So just Thunderstone Quest just hit Kickstarter again, and I continue to play that game. This game has thousands of cards, and I love it so much that I can honestly say, and I'm bragging a little bit here, I've played through over 75% of it. I've seen 75% of the cards. That is how much I love this game. I know 15 times I've played it. I'm not counting, right? 15 times. And it gets better and better every time. I love Thunderstone Quest. Play it, buy it, get it on Kickstarter. Don't miss it. That's what's on my table.
Yeah, it's one of those games where I'm trying to portion out how much of it I play, because I know there's a lot there, but I'm like, I don't want to just blast through this. I want to play a little bit and then play a little bit more. And so to hear that you're 75% of the way through it is incredible.
Yeah, I'm not even close to that.
Well, you guys know this was the one that I poured my heart and soul into. I just followed it on Kickstarter.
Right.
And I thought, if I'm paying this much money, I'm going to play the heck out of this game. So maybe it's not really a good game after all. Maybe I just have it in my mind somewhere.
You just are going to make it a good game, darn it.
Exactly. So that's what's on my table. What are we talking about? Orleans?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'll just start us off, because then I can shut up for a little bit.
Okay.
So we got this to the table on Monday night, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we busted out the trade and Intrigue expansion, which is great. I love when expansions do what this one did, and it gave you 4 to 5 different modules to play with. And we actually only introduced one module, and it would have been super simple to introduce more. It was the fact of the matter was I had the game set up already when you got here.
We did
and
2.
So,
we put 2 in.
Oh, did we? Oh, you're right. We did put 2 in.
Yeah.
So what we did was we added the new trade board, town hall board, which just I would never play without this ever again. I don't have it yet. I will have it, because what the new town hall board does is allows you to offload one of your workers that you don't want anymore, and you can get a different reward besides money. And there's so many rewards that are way more valuable on this town hall board. And I absolutely love it. We added some new, I'm going to call them buildings. I'm not sure if that's the right term for them, but I think they're buildings in the game. And basically they're actions that only you get to take when you buy them. There's already 18 in the game. And this one adds 3 or 4 more. And so those are fun, just to have a few more options. And I know they add a little bit more with there's the Intrigue board, which maybe one of you two can speak to. It's a little cutthroat for me. I don't think I want to play with it, but I haven't tried it. So I really like this expansion, and I will not play without that trade town hall board ever. So that's my take on it. Love it.
Yeah, Scott, have you played with any of the other components as a part of it? I think you said the same about the Intrigue board. that it's very cutthroat. It really messes with other players. It kind of makes the game aggressive.
Yeah, we talked about it, and we all decided that we're just never going to play with that board. It is super take that, aggressive, mess with people, and that's just not our game group. And like, they know that I had a review copy, that I wanted to review it, but I still, like, none of them were willing even to play a game of it, this game that they already love, with this Intrigue board, because they just didn't want to ruin any of the experience or even spend one game having to be at each other's throats. So take that out, because none of us have played with it. I will probably never end up playing with it. This expansion is still worth the money, even if you never play with that aspect.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like AJ said, that trade board is infinitely more interesting than the original Town Hall.
Yes.
All those, and let's be honest too, all of those rewards and all the things that you could get from going there definitely had an impact on the outcome of the game. It wasn't like, oh, that was cool, I got a little extra of this, or I did that. Like, they legit added points and swung things. And we talked about it after the game finished. I was like, oh, I could go back like 3 turns and point out to where I blew what I was planning.
Oh yeah, what did it? I don't even remember who won that game. Who won?
It wasn't it you?
Yeah, I just wanted to hear you say it.
Anyway, but it was one of those things where I had left a guy on the town hall and I didn't put another one up to go in, and so I was going to complete one of the areas so I could get the extra citizen. Plus, it was going to give me some other stuff, and like, I probably left like 16, 17 points on the board because of that one turn. And like, that was the margin of victory. I was like, I don't know, it was like 140 to 146 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, like, but that was all because of that board. If it was the regular version, it would have, the game would have been completely, it would have been completely different, because it still plays like Orleans, right? But it would have really not had that interesting tension at the end of it, and had those ways that you can further manipulate the things that are going on in the game. So I'm a fan of this expansion. I know there's a few other things, like there's some other scoring variants that you can add to it as well. But even if you just buy it for that board and the few buildings that you can put into it, well worth it.
Yeah, there's also the one other mechanism. So you mentioned the scoring cards that you can. There's extra ways to score, but I think they add 30. I think it's 34 new event tiles. That's more than even is in the original game.
Right.
And so you can just mix those in, and you mix in 18 of them, because I think the game goes for 18 rounds. And you've got stuff that you've never seen before, because you've seen like doubles and triples of the same stuff in the base game.
Right. There's like 3 plague events that happen, and there's the taxation that happens like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. So you've seen all those multiple times. You know what they are, and you kind of aren't surprised. But yeah, those extra events would be sweet.
And we did play with those. We traded out all the new ones, or all the old ones for all the new ones. And there are a few that were from the original, but there are a few new ones that were just really cool things. Like there's one called Summoning, where everyone has to return their merchant to Orleans, wherever they are on the board, or pay $5.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow. So that could really mess with your plans. One of them that we got was called Vacation, and you just discard that tile and draw the next one, and suddenly the game is one entire turn shorter.
Oh my goodness.
No.
Yeah. So it was really fun. We liked it a lot. And we also played the other thing that we threw everything in there basically except for the Intrigue board. But the other thing you can do is they have these called order cards. And so each card has a specific city that is looking for specific goods. And so really what this does is make the travel aspect more interesting, because in the original game, I don't remember seeing many times where somebody won who did heavy travel. They just didn't seem to mix. You could get a lot of points, but I don't think I remember once that somebody won. So this really makes travel viable, because you can get these order cards and get 15 or 20 extra victory points by delivering specific goods to specific cities, while you're also dropping down trading houses and getting all those other goods and things like that. So it really makes the travel aspect viable. One complaint that people have, and I can see this, is that if somebody fulfills an order, then you draw a new one to the stack of 4 or 5 that are always out. Well, if somebody happens to be near a city and happens to have those goods, when that one comes out, it's super lucky for them. And so that's just one of the luck of the draw kind of things. It didn't really affect our game, but it's there.
That's like the ticket to ride. You get to the end of the game and you built so many things and you just start drawing cards and it's like, oh, I completed 19 rides.
Right.
Totally.
But I get it. It's on a lighter level, but still. Yeah.
So, yeah, we played with everything and we liked everything. And I don't see any reason why we wouldn't play with every one of those modules other than the Intrigue board every time we play. Just there's tons of new variety, and it just adds interesting things to the game. Great expansion.
Yeah, and to me, like I agree. There's no reason to not play with any of that stuff. Again, I'm a big fan of this expansion. I love Orleans. It's probably, top 5 game all time, top 10 at least. It's just a great game. I really, really love it. But to me, this is a good expansion. It doesn't fundamentally change the game. It doesn't, scrap a bunch of stuff that you loved about the original, but it adds nice wrinkles. It adds really interesting things, and it just ratchets up that replayability to where if you've given this game, 5-10 plays, you kind of know what to expect. Everything you've got your strategies and how you choose what you're going to do the first few turns. You got that all down. And this kind of just stirs that up a little bit. It gives you new options. It gives you new ways to play. So to me, this is a great, what an expansion should be.
Absolutely.
I'll say one more thing. We played with 2 newbies and it was the first time playing the game. And adding this expansion didn't do a thing to them. It was just like it was part of the regular game. And that's really cool. They didn't really have to learn anything new. We didn't have to learn anything new.
Yeah.
You just played it. It was awesome.
Cool. Let's move on. You know what time it is.
What time is it, Jeremiah?
It's time for fire.
And ice.
And gas.
Have we ever done the gas portion?
No, I don't think there's I'm not gonna saddle a game with that distinction. But for those of you who may be new to the show, this is the segment where we talk about games that are super hot for us, that we really are enjoying right now. And we also talk about games that are not. So we've got a fire game, we've got an ice game, and we talk a little bit about them, and then we move on with our lives. So it looks like I'm first on the list.
You are.
Okay, so my fire game is a game I mentioned earlier, Hanamakoji, which is it's just so cool. And, we used the word elegant earlier when we were describing high society. And this is definitely a game that I would feel comfortable giving that title as well. This game is simple and elegant and streamlined and has gorgeous art and has very, very clever gameplay. And I think that's one of the things I like about it the most, is that there's only a few different things you can do, but you have to be really clever in how you use them in order to win. So basically the game takes place in Kyoto, which is this district that's known for like geisha houses and things like that. And there are 7 geishas, and let's just dispel the whole thing about geishas. They were artists. They were, they played instruments and they read poetry and they danced, and so all of them have, different things. Like they have an instrument, or they have a scroll of poetry, or whatever it might be. And there's 7 cards that sit in between you and the other player. It's only for 2 players. And then there's a set of cards for each of those geishas, and they're numbered, each geisha is numbered like 2 through 5. There's some repeats in there of the different numbers. And that number also means that there's that many cards in the deck for that geisha. So like there's only 2 for the 2s and 5 for the 5. And basically what you're trying to do is get more cards played on your side of the geishas to win their favor than your opponent. And if you do that, if you get 4 of the 7, then you win the game. It's basically like area control. That's all it is. But there's only 4 actions you can do. And 2 of those actions require you to put cards face up and let your opponent either pick 1 or 2 of them to play on their side. So there's that double-edged thing that's going on where, all right, I'm going to get 2 cards on my side, but I'm also giving them a card. And I don't get to be like, this is the card you take. They get to choose it. So there's really great tension in how you manipulate those actions and how you strategize what cards you're going to use. One of the other actions is that you discard 2, so you can remove cards from the game. I thought it was really elegant. AJ and I played it, and we played, I think it only lasted 2 rounds. Like, it's a quicker game. It's like 10-15 minutes, but it was a lot of fun that we had in just those, few minutes of gameplay. So that's my fire game.
Nice. Yeah, I guess for me right now, it's an older game, and I talked about this a little bit on Board Games Daily a week or so ago, and it's Scythe. We've been getting Scythe to the table quite frequently. The game group loves it, and I like it. And the dogs are chiming in. Perfect timing. They knew I was talking again. I mean, Scythe it was one of those games that was just hyped up like unbelievably on Kickstarter. It was hyped up everywhere. And I looked at it and I looked into the game and I just thought, it looks really cool. It looks cool. Do I want it for $80-$90 or $70-$80? No, I'll check it out when I get around to it. And that's exactly what I did. I picked it up at Origins for $50 this year, and I'm glad that I picked it up for $50 because it plays really, really well. It's a great, solid game. My game group loves it. I really enjoy it. Gives me super high anxiety because I just know what I know what I want to do on my turn, and it's like, come on, guys, let's go. It's my turn, isn't it? Right? Let's go. But I really like Scythe. I'm glad that I waited for it because it's a really good game, but it's not my favorite game, and it'll hit the table frequently, but it's not going to hit it all the time.
All right, my fire game is one that we ran a review of just recently, as you're going to be listening to this, and that's called Decrypt by Aiello Games. This is a not deduction game, well, kind of a deduction game. It's played in teams, and each side has secret words, and you're trying to communicate with your team about which 3 of the 4 words are on the card that you've drawn each turn. There are cards that have a combination like 3-2-1, 4-1-3, or something like that. And each turn, one person will be writing down clues to try and get their team to guess the correct order of the words. Only your team knows your words. The other team only knows their words. And so each turn you're giving clues, but the other team gets to listen in on the clues, and they get a chance to intercept your code. So if you're too obvious about things, the codes you're giving, the other team can steal from you, and if they do that twice, they win. If your team guesses incorrectly the code that you're trying to get them to say twice, your team loses. It's really difficult to explain. It is something you have to experience, but it is so much on fire. We play this almost every week. I have played this with people of all levels, and I would say it's not quite as newbie, non-gamer friendly as, say, Codenames or something like that. That's very approachable. This is a little more stressful. This is a little more subdued, I would say. And in Codenames, you often have a fallback clue that you can give. Like, you're trying to get those 3 and 4 kind of turns where you're like, this word 4, and just have those epic turns. And if you can't think of something, you have a 1 or a 2 almost always as a backup. But with Decrypt, if you can't think of a word, you just can't think of a word. So sometimes it can kind of grind down to a halt like that. But every time I play it, I love it. My 10-year-old has been playing it, so it goes all the way down to that age, and he's really good at it. he comes up with these clues that are just, he's impressive, that kid. And so much fun. It's super cheap. Like the MSRP is $20 in this game. It is worth every penny. You will get so much replayability out of this game. It's fantastic. I guarantee it will be in my top 10 list for the end of the year.
Very cool. I have not yet played it. I haven't played Scythe yet either. I know.
That's on for Monday. Come on.
But it's Decrypto. I really want to get a hold of as well. So we'll see if that happens soon. But I keep hearing really good things about it.
Time for some ice.
It's time for some ice. AJ,
all right.
What's gone cold?
You know what? This has gone cold, and it'll never get hot again. And this is Splendor.
Yeah.
You know what? I look at it on my shelf, and it makes me sick when people suggest it. I'm like, oh, please, I don't know. I don't want to play Splendor. It's to the point where I've just played it so many times, and I just feel like it's really, like, literally lost the fun. Whatever fun I was having with it at the beginning, I don't know what it was because it's so far gone. And I had some friends over who on last Thursday, and they suggested it, and I said, I don't know, guys, I really don't want to play that. I said, I'm kind of spent on that game. It's even on my trade list. And they said, well, have you played it with the expansion? And I said, no, I haven't. I was interested in it, hoping it would breathe new life into it. But I don't know. I don't think I'm even going to try the expansion. I'm going to leave it up on the trade list. I've got some promo tiles that go with it, and hopefully somebody will bite on it. So we'll see.
Totally agree with you on that. I think it's so overrated, even as a non-gamer game. Anyway, my ice game is Big Trouble in Little China. Now, this is not a game that I normally would have even had on my radar, other than a deep and abiding love for the movie. I just thought, there's no way this is going to be my type of game. And I've played it a couple times, and indeed, it's not really my type of game. I've still had fun with it. It's mostly because of the people I played with, and also some of just, it really is thematic. It tries hard to be thematic and bring some of those things into it. And so it uses a lot of humor, too, like the game does. One of the cards we were playing with the other night, and I looked at the title of this card, and it was dropping the kids off at the black pool. I just loved it. Anyway, so, but the reason it's ice is because ultimately it's super hard, and you just kind of feel like you're wailing up against a brick wall, and you're never going to win, and you're just kind of like, I'm here for the experience, I'm here to hang out with you guys, and I'm here to, say silly quotes from this movie, but I have no notion that I'm going to win this thing ever. And the first time we played, we got crushed, and we all were like, how are we ever going to win? The second time we played, we got much further and started to see some of the nuances of the game. That's not to say it's a nuanced game in any way, but it was just more enjoyable. But it's still like, ultimately, I'll happily play a friend's copy. It's not one I ever need to own, but it's still fun. And if you like the movie, you'll have a good time playing it. That's cool.
Yeah, I remember I kept walking by, and I can't remember the name of the publisher. I kept walking by their booth at Origins, and I think it's Everything Epic. Is that right?
I can't remember.
Yeah, it's Everything Epic, and I never got a chance to stop by and look at it, but I remember seeing, there's stuff going on about it online, and, pictures on, Instagram and everything. It looks like it's probably worth a fun play or two, but a lot of what Everything Epic does is a lot of licensed things like that. Like they've got a Rambo game and so I don't know. I'd like to play it sometime, but again, I don't know that I'm in a big hurry to get my own copy and, have a marathon night of playing it. But I think it'd be a fun experience. So my ice list, I don't really have like a specific game necessarily, because I've been on a pretty good streak lately of playing some really awesome games, which has been really fun. But when we were at Origins, and I got to preface this by saying I'm very, very grateful that this was given to me. Because Starling Games was kind of like sharing booth space with Myriad Games, and Myriad Games was selling these board game night booster boxes. So for like $50, you'd buy this white box that says Game Night Booster Box or whatever on the side, and you're guaranteed like $150 worth of games. And what they've done is they've gone out to like all these different publishers and said, hey, we're doing this cool thing, and I think there's like a charity element to it or whatever. Would you donate some games to this? And I know like Mayfair has done stuff. I know for a fact that you can get if you're lucky enough, you can score a copy of World Championship Russian Roulette. Like there's good games to be had in these things.
Oh, they had Blood Rage in those boxes.
Yeah,
I mean, I saw what some people were getting. Some people were getting big miniature games, but go ahead and finish.
But I did not. I did not recognize a single title that I pulled out of the box.
Oh, they're all different?
What's that?
They're different?
Yeah, they're all randomly packed. Like
it's like a grab bag.
It's literally like a booster pack for your game night. So,
and you got a common.
I got a common in a big way.
Yes, you did. Yes, that's awesome.
I don't even the only publisher that I recognized. Well, it was a game from Queen Games, and I don't even remember it's so unmemorable that I don't remember the name of the game.
Oh man,
it's some like I don't know, like Apocalypse title. I don't know.
It could have been everything. It could have been anything with Queen Games.
Yeah,
they've got 100 bad games to one good game.
But I don't really have a desire to play any of these games, so they're still in the box, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Maybe we'll put it up on eBay and people can bid on my bad booster box.
I remember seeing those at Origins, and they look so intriguing. Like it's tempting. It is just like it.
Now I'm upset because like I didn't realize like you could get Blood Rage in one.
They were telling you. Oh, it was the sales pitch of the century. I mean, I walked by there. They were like, "Oh, you can get this, you can get that," and oh man, was I ready to cough up $50? I was so close. So close.
If you go to our Facebook page, I did a Facebook Live video of me unboxing this, which is why they gave it to me. They're like, hey, do you want to do an unboxing? I was like, yeah, great. Give me this box and I'll take it back to the booth. And I did it. I tried to be like so positive during it, but I'm like, oh, it's this game from I don't know this person.
It's like I want to go watch that. Where you're like, oh, socks and underwear.
Right, like,
thanks, Grandma.
And then I saw Brenna Noonan, who was the one who gave it to me. She's with Starling Games and everything, and she's like, "Hey, how did that box turn out?" I was like, "Well," so yeah, it was a little disappointing, but it's a cool concept. It's a $50 gamble. You could get something really cool, and or not. And who am I to say there might be a really good game in that box that just nobody's heard about, but I wasn't like, oh sweet, I got whatever.
I heard they were giving away copies of Asgard's Chosen.
They can
too soon.
They can have those. All right, so that's Fire and Ice. Let's move on to fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank. Hey everybody, let's fill in the blank.
Fill it in. That's the first time I've added to the song. I felt comfortable in this episode.
True. I like it.
I loved it.
So this is a segment we do every episode, almost every episode, where we fill in a blank, where we just kind of come up with a stupid statement and put a blank at the beginning or the end, and we fill it in. We take turns filling it in. So the first one has to do with the Trogdor board game. For those of you who remember Homestar Runner, there is it's actually like it's by the people that were behind Homestar Runner.
It is, yes. This is not somebody trying to
like they're not
launch one without the IP.
Right, like they didn't like license it or whatever. Like it's It's the dudes. Like the video has like all the voices and everything. Which is for me was just super enjoyable. But the statement is the Trogdor board game will be blank.
Okay.
That was exactly what I was gonna say.
with a question mark at the end too, like I said.
Yeah, I totally agree. I watched the video for the gameplay, and I will say this: the components look sweet. Whether you get, because there's two things. There's the Wingaling level, which is like just wooden meeples, and there's the Burninator level, which will give you the meeples and like plastic minis. The components, either one, like the wooden meeples look really, really cool. Yeah. But to me, the gameplay, it's co-op. It looked very reminiscent of Forbidden Island or Forbidden Desert, where like Trogdor moves around and he flips over tiles and burninates them, and then the villagers come in and they can undo that. So like you're basically just trying to flip tiles and burninate everything. So it looks like it's probably okay. It's probably like a nice lightweight co-op, but I wouldn't say like, oh, this is going to be the best game ever. But for nostalgia's sake and for component's sake, it's probably worth looking into. And I would be fine with something that replaced Forbidden Island that was thematically more enjoyable and fun for me. So I don't know. That's kind of what I thought.
I just hope they do a good job with it. You guys I was waiting that whole time for that.
Don't worry, it's .com. There are 223 people who paid $200 to get a wood handcrafted game board of this.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. They're at $500,000 for this campaign.
Yeah, I was going to say it's already like crazy successful. Like they've done already. Yeah. So I agree. I think okay is my response for that as well. What about you, AJ?
I'm on the same page. It's gonna. I don't know. It's just gonna. I don't even know that okay. It's gonna be there. It will be there in the market.
I just want to know if they're going to be at like conventions and stuff with it, so I can meet those guys and like have them sign the cheat bag or something.
You still have that? I
still have that. It survived the fire. It kind of smells funny, but yeah.
That was before the fire too.
Well, yeah. All right. Let's fill in the blank again. What do you say?
All right. I'll ask the question this time.
All right. Go for it.
The most overrated, it's only halfway through, but the most overrated game so far of 2018 is
Rising Sun.
Oh.
Whoa.
Rising Sun. And this is, listen, I'll preface this. And this is, you say, how can you do this? I've not played the game yet. I have seen it played. I have watched reviews on it, and I've even talked to a guy. I sat down, I was playing Dragon Castle with a guy from CMON, and his job is to promote these games, and I was talking to him about it. He said, and I can't remember what he compared it to. He said Fantasy Flight has a game just like this. It's like $20 cheaper, and it doesn't have the miniatures, and it plays almost exactly the same. He said, so if you want to try it out before buying that, go ahead and get the Fantasy Flight one. That's what this guy said to me. I just look at the game and I think, and we've had the miniatures conversation before. Are you selling me a game or are you selling me miniatures? And I think you feel a little bit differently about this guy. You think the game's pretty good?
I do, but I also think the miniatures are ridiculous.
Yeah, I just think it's overrated. Who needs it? I think there's got to be better games out there, and I think the sell point and the sell tactic was the miniatures, and I think it worked. And I don't know that the gameplay actually meets the sticker price and the expectations. But I gotta play it. But that's just what my opinions are from looking at it. So
I was surprised how much I liked it. But you're right. Like, it's a game where you could easily, even if you just had the miniatures of the quote unquote troops, that would be one thing, and it would be quite a bit cheaper. And you can play that game just fine without those giant ones that add so much money and are legitimately cool, but it's just overload.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. And this is a very unpopular opinion, but you can play Warhammer with cardboard standees. Like,
Sure.
it's, there's part of the gaming thing though is it's this tactile, it's this 3D, it's this, actual analog representation of what we're doing that takes place on a table. So I'm fine. Like, people are into miniatures, and to me, that's putting more artists to work. That's putting, there's more things that happen from that, and I'm totally fine with it. But just make sure that the game's good. Like, if you can sell miniatures to it, more power to you. I have no idea what it's like to try to run a gaming company and a publisher and try to make money at, selling games. And if selling miniatures is a way that you can put food on your table, go for it. I'm not, there's no, you won't get any argument with me, but just make sure the game is good. That's kind of my take on that.
You make a good point. Yeah.
So, Scott, what's your most overrated game?
It probably came out late 2017, but I'm going to go with The Thing: Infection at Outpost 31.
Oh,
yeah.
It's probably not quite as maybe it's not popular enough to be called overrated, but I was so excited about this game. I wanted this game to be great, and it's not. Unfortunately.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I'm trying to think of stuff that's been super hyped that I would say is overrated. I think in general, there's been a lot of games lately. Like, what's that one that's like, Kingdom Death
Monster.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like just super gory and, like, very mature themed. I think those,
like Rage.
I think in general, in general, those games are overrated. Like, do we really need R-rated games? I understand that not every game is for every person, but come on. Like, why do we need to be gross like that? I think it's like the low road in game design. So I would say that I don't know that I have, like, I don't want to point out, Kingdom Death Murder, because I don't know much about that game. So I can't say like, oh, it doesn't play that great and it's, got all this buzz, but what it is to me is just kind of disturbing. Is that a cop out?
No, I think that's fair, because that is a highly regarded game, and a friend of mine backed it, and then he got it and went, oh, I wish I hadn't backed that.
Yeah.
Because it's dark, and there's a lot of sexual stuff in it, and I don't like things that's like, hey, buy our game because boobies. No, just stop. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, and guys like us are playing games with our wives or kids, or that's just not going to ever speak to us.
Right.
I don't know what kind of people, and I know there are, but I don't know what people are, getting together in such a game group that would be content that everyone in that game group would be like, let's go for that. Yeah, give me ripped off heads and just,
right.
I think there's some, elements to some artwork and some of the games that we probably play that is, on the verge of maybe darker, but I think for the most part, we want family games,
Yeah, I don't want to have to like cover the table when my kids walk by.
Right.
Right.
Okay, next up, on the other side of 2018, since we're kind of in this middle point, my favorite game of 2018 so far is...
this will come as no surprise, but it's Gaia Project.
Hey-o, we made it pretty far into this episode.
Before you asked the question, not me. That game's amazing.
Well, we've all played it now, and I know you enjoyed it way more than Jeremiah and I did. But then again, Jeremiah and I played it 2 players. We were
That's true.
Some of the rules were a little questionable at some points, so I think with a little more clarification, if somebody had taught us the game, I think we would have had a much better experience than busting out the game, punching everything, and learning the rules, and then playing it. By the end of it, we were a little bit, exhausted.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I think, future plays But again, this won't be my favorite game so far because it is the kind of game that I'm going to have a really hard time getting on the table. It's just so complex and so deep, and so many of my gamer friends just don't play that kind of game. So, yeah. All right, what do you got, AJ?
Well, for me, you guys know what mine would be. I'm going to go with something else here. I'm not going to. Thunderstone is it, but I'm going to talk about Century Eastern Wonders. This was the Plan B game's second release in the Century line. They did Century Spice Road last year, which sold out on early Thursday morning of the game convention. Well, Century Eastern Wonders sold out on Thursday afternoon, before noon. It sold out before noon on Thursday at Origins.
Yeah.
So, now, this game, for what it sold for, it was a pre-release. So I will say that people buying it up like they did, that was a little overrated. The game is not that good that it needed to be sold out like that. I think it was just sold out because it was an early release. No, I mean, there was a line around this booth at like 9:30, and it was all the way around the booth, and people were eating this up. They were eating up Azul still too. It's like, come on, if you want that game, who doesn't have it yet? But apparently there's people. So, and that Azul, and that's okay because that might not be, but. Anyway, Century Spice Road it's a really good, or it's not Century Spice Road, Century Eastern Wonders, really fun game with an actual playing board this time where you're moving ships around. It's pick up and delivery. It's totally something. It's not original by any means. Yeah. But there are some cool concepts in it that I've not seen before that I really enjoy, and I think it plays really, really well. Have had a great time with this game so far, so it's good.
I'm torn between two, and I think one is actually a late 2017, so I'll give it an honorable mention, and that's Queen Domino, which I think is infinitely better than King Domino, although there's an expansion for King Domino that is supposed to be really good too. But
that's coming out this year.
Yeah, that's coming out soon. But I think they're releasing that at Gen Con. I don't know. There's an ad for it on our site. I should look at it.
Awkward.
Shout out to Blue Orange for sponsoring some ad space on our scheduled to be released at Gen Con 2018. There it is. Boom. So thanks, Blue Orange. But I think I'm actually going to say Thunderstone Quest. It's so good, and it's one of those games. I think we've all talked about it ad nauseum, but it's one of those games it's a huge box and there's all these cards and everything, and you think this is going to be so cumbersome and so overwhelming and so complex that I'm not going to be able to enjoy it because I'm just going to be trying to remember the rules. And that couldn't be further from the truth. It's a deck builder. You have a few extra choices that you can make, and there's some strategies to manipulating those choices, but it's a deck builder and it's just really, really good. So I think that's probably at this point, my favorite game of 2018.
Nice going, AJ. You didn't even have to say it, and Jeremiah did it for you.
Yes. Brainwashing everybody.
So that brings us to the almost end of the show. And you know what that means?
Lightning round.
That's right. So this is, or as I like to call it, the not so lightning round. So we always, when we do written reviews, or not written reviews, but written interviews, we like to grill our guests with a round of questions that we tell them to answer in one word or less. It's like a lightning rapid fire little question and answer kind of thing. So we attempt to do that here on the podcast, which we fail at miserably, but they're fun questions that aren't necessarily gaming related. And we call it lightning round. Who wants to go first?
Ooh, favorite A-team member? Okay, you guys have questions on here that are totally not a generation thing for me at all. So
whatever.
I will go with, you guys are old.
It's called Netflix.
I will go with who I know, and I know him not from the A-team, but I know him because I watch silly, scripted WWF at the time, WWE wrestling, growing up, and Mr. T made several appearances fighting with Hulk Hogan, fighting against Hulk Hogan. So I knew Mr. T as a wrestler, and Mr. T was cool. And so favorite A-Team member, Mr. T.
Scott?
Yeah, that's a good one. But I think I'm going to go with Mad Dog Murdoch.
Yeah.
He was crazy, and I love that about him.
He was crazy. See, there's something about... Now, don't get me wrong. Mr. T's great, and his inexplicable fear of flying and the way they used to, like, drug him and... like get him onto a plane. Like that was just really, really fun and funny. And, you know, Mad Dog, you know, howling Murdoch was very good too. But I don't know. I'm a fan of Hannibal, you know, just his smirky confidence about how they were going to do ridiculous things. And, you know, the catchphrase, I love it when a plan comes together. Like that's been like a mantra for many years of my life. So I think I got to go with Hannibal.
I like that we all answered differently on that.
Yeah. And get out of here. Get out of here, Templeton Peck. Nobody...
Yeah. You and your skirt chasing ways.
All right. Lightning round. Excuse me. All right, this one's a two-parter, but your favorite Muppet and Muppet movie.
Mine is Ralph the Dog and the Great Muppet Caper.
Oh, the Great Muppet Caper.
Okay.
I think it was just the right age at that movie that it's the one I saw the most.
Gotcha, yeah.
So it's really embedded in my head.
That makes sense. AJ.
I am partial to Kermit. Kermit's always making hard decisions and good decisions. I like Kermit. And my favorite movie, although I enjoy Caper, is probably, or excuse me, I enjoy Muppet Take Manhattan. My favorite, though, is Muppet Treasure Island.
Oh. There's like different eras of Muppet movies, right? Like there's the original ones, then there's like the stories that they kind of redid, like Treasure Island and Christmas Carol, and then there's like the newer ones. See, I'm between two different favorites, and I probably have to say that Animal is my favorite, only because, you know, as a young teenager playing the drums, he was kind of a role model for me. And I think my favorite is the original Muppet movie. Moving Right Along is like the Isley family road trip song. Like when we start a road trip, we play that, you know, the kids are like, they're like, it's not, we have to play it. We can't start driving until we play it. So, I think that's probably the number one for me. A strong second would be Muppet Christmas Carol, because I love the story of A Christmas Carol, and you know, I also
surprisingly good.
I also love the Muppets. So yeah. All right.
All right. General Lee. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say lightning round.
All right, General Lee or Kitt.
Also,
hopefully most of you know what we're talking about.
Also known as Knight Industries 2000. Did you know that? That's what Kitt stands for?
No.
I bet AJ didn't.
I definitely didn't.
Because I'm old.
All right, I'll go first. As hard of a choice as this is, I have to go General Lee. 69 Dodge Charger. Those things were so cool. They smashed so many of them up, you know, making that show. They actually, at one point, they were just shooting one day and they broke like the Guinness Book of World Records for a jump in a car. And they didn't even know it till like months later when they like watched the film and like they got notified by Guinness that they had done this. Like they just like, they did the shot and they moved on to the next one. So it's just such a cool car and funny series. Kitt was pretty cool, but I think the General Lee wins it for me.
No, I follow suit completely. I love the Dodge Charger. I was not, obviously it's not a show that I watched, but I've seen it growing up, you know, different places in my life, and that's a cool car.
Absolutely.
3 for 3 generally is the best. I looked forward to Friday nights every week.
Yep.
Not just because school is out, but because we got to watch Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
And we just found out like a month ago that it's on Amazon Prime.
Is it really?
Yeah.
No way.
We have been watching it as a family.
I'm doing that with my boys because
it's so cheesy. It's so hilariously bad.
It is.
Like, I think in the back of my mind, I knew it was bad. And then you watch and go, oh my, it's incredibly bad.
The Dukes don't take revenge on people. They take revenge on property.
Oh, man. It's so the kids are running around the house calling each other dipsticks and stuff.
That's awesome.
It's great. All right, last question. No, there are 2 questions, but I'll ask the next one. No, that's it.
There's one
the
more.
last one.
Yeah, this is it.
What happened to dice building games? We had Couriers.
Yeah.
Couriers was a great game, and then poof.
I think what happened to dice building games, gosh, it's a really good question. I wonder who wrote that one.
I don't actually know. It wasn't me.
It was totally me. I think what happened to dice building games is people realized it's cheaper to make cards than it is to make custom dice. So like, I guess there's still like, what is it? Hero Dice and the Destiny thing, the Star Wars thing.
Oh yeah.
But they have significantly dropped off the radar because I mean there was like, Lord of the Rings dice building game and Couriers, and it just, I think some of the randomness of it doesn't translate well. I don't know. It's a quandary, but I think things like bag building games with Orleans and new things happening with deck building have really kind of squashed the rise of the dice building game.
I think it's an aesthetics thing too. I mean, although people love chucking dice, and I definitely do, you're not seeing your card and what you're doing with that card, or excuse me, like when you have a card in front of you, you're seeing a nice picture, you're seeing what that card does, and you're immersing yourself into the theme of the game a little more. But with the dice building game, a lot of times you had to roll your dice, you had to look at what card it corresponded to, then you had to read the text on the dice to see which symbol corresponded with what you rolled on your dice.
Yeah.
And I think in the long run, when you have games that are simpler, that have fun rolling mechanisms, like just something as simple as Dungeon Roll or what's the other? Is it Ninja Dice or
Ninja Dice? Yeah.
I mean, and those games are super simple, and I get that they're not on the level of dice building games. But I think when you have those options where you can have some simple iconography versus iconography that you have to continue to take to what I would call a rule book almost, by having those cards laid out and reading those cards, you have to take the icons straight to the rule book. And I just think people got tired of it and thought there's better things out there for me. I don't know.
Yeah, and with each new release, I'm thinking of Couriers specifically, they kept adding these new mechanisms that, you're right, it was like, now what does locking do again? And I can't remember.
Yeah,
and so we'll play the game. My kids still like playing Couriers, and so we'll pull it out. But, we'll draw a bunch of monsters, and they're like, no, I can't use that one. I don't remember what that does. So we end up playing with kind of the same quote-unquote basic ones again. But
right,
because I don't have time to relearn what those certain mechanisms mean. So, yeah, it's still a fun game. I like it, but it's just all right.
Yeah, it's sad because it's definitely a really creative idea, and it was cool when it hit the scene. So I like dice building games. I think they were just a little too cumbersome at times, maybe.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings went away for Bora Bora. I got that in a trade. Sorry, Jeremiah gave me Lord of the Rings dice building. I gave that away.
Bora Bora is a great game. You made a good choice there.
All right. Well, guess what, guys?
That's a wrap.
This has been a long episode.
It has.
But I think it's been a good episode, if you ask me. So just to do some final housekeeping here, Remember the Patreon page, still there, still happening, still a thing. theologyofgames.com/Patreon. We would love it if you would go there and check it out. You can get some
hang on, the earlier you get in there, the better choice you have of promos.
That's right.
So get in early and often.
Get in early and often and score some sweet promos. Stuff that you would have to like run down the aisles of a gaming convention to get from different folks, publishers and things like that. You can just sit at the leisure of your own home and click a couple things and I'll send it to you right to your doorstep. So check that out. Of course, you can find us on social media at Theology of Games on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Is there still a Pinterest page?
Conceivably, we could probably do away with that at this point.
Maybe. Yeah, we should check it out. We still get emails from them every now and then, like, somebody pinned something.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but thanks.
Great!
What else do we have to tell people?
Just keep the conversation going. Check us out on Anchor. We have Board Games Daily, where every single day we're posting new material, breaking news, impressions of games we played that we can just give you super quick impressions of without having to write up a whole blog post. So we're able to be nimble with that, and that means you get information more quickly.
Yeah, so basically anything and everything you want to know about us you can find at theologyofgames.com. So try to do that, because we'd love for you to be a bigger part of this community and what we are trying to do here, and we really appreciate everybody's support and listening and all that fun stuff. So thanks for tuning in, folks.
Yeah. We will talk to you later.
That's it. There was no good moment for me to say anything.
Obviously not.
That's kind of like the whole show.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
You've been listening to the Theology of Games podcast with Jeremiah Isley and Scott Firestone. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd appreciate your subscription to the podcast and your review on iTunes. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day, and until next time, get a game on the table.
I gave a strong no to both of them.